Welcome, Everett. Everett, what's the hardest lesson you've had to learn as a gym owner?
Definitely, would be one that's recent. Is it's not all about you, and basically that one is kind of all encompassing. Is don't take things personally if somebody wants to leave your gym, even after 9 years of still doing that, and ask for help. You don't, or you're not the one that has to do anything. It's getting the right people in the right place to help you. So, and that the gym is not you. It's the gym. You're a separate entity and getting people basically kind of setting people up to help you as a team instead of trying to do everything on your own.
That is that answer you had, which is like to not take it personally when people leave or if people say no. Man, did I just ate it on that one for a long time because I think we put so much into it as coaches. Your identity is who you are as a coach. And so we like build that into our business, and someone saying no or walking away, man, does that hurt?
It still hurts to this day after 9 years, but it's a lot less and it's more understandable.
Yeah. Well, I found too that what a lot of people need to do is get oriented that the other people have other needs. Your clients have needs and wants and hobbies, and not all of them are going to like the same music I like the style of training I like. A lot of them, some of them just aren't going to like me. You know what I mean? If you put you or I in a room with 100 people, by God, if we're doing great, if 70 of them like us, can tolerate.
That's one of the hard parts to understand is like you might be the friendliest person in the world, and guess what? Some people might not like you because you're super friendly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
they'll actually not like you because you're super friendly.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that I did like that you said, Everett, was the idea that who you are as a person is not the gym. And I think because it's a lot of times I think a lot of folks are like, this is their baby. So it almost becomes like, well, the gym is me. I am the gym. Like, what was that process?
So this is the one that I noticed recently because out here we just I'm in Ontario in Canada, and we've been extremely strict with all the lockdowns and everything like that. And we just passed a couple months ago like a vaccine passport system. So basically, in order to go to the gym, you have to be vaccinated. And a lot of the gym owners, it was like the last straw, and they're like, "Oh, I'm against vaccination, blah blah blah," and they took an open stance personally about it, representing their gym, and it cost them. Like sometimes people did like a radio interview and said, "I'm not following this," and like 50 members dropped off the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that like you can have your personal opinions, but if you're making your money and paying your mortgage through your gym, it's probably not the smartest thing to sabotage both of them. You could still have your strong opinions, but realize these are my personal feelings, and business is business. This is how I have to make money.
Yeah. Plus, a guy can always, Jesus, don't publicly put yourself. That's a rough one. That's by the way, if a guy's got a livelihood and you're free and clear and you want to, that's your hill to die on, go for it. But man, if I got to eat, I can't be trading that off. But it's for the same reason I can't cuss like a sailor in front of my morning class that's mostly housewives. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that does
know your audience.
Yeah, you just have to kind of know that like I want a general population audience, and I don't want it divided on some philosophical or political matter. And by the way, you can, but if your market doesn't give you enough people that fit that bill, then you're going to eat it, and it just doesn't work. So if you need to cross those boundaries in your market and have people from both sides of some issue, you kind of got to keep your mouth shut on it. And it's tough because guys like me, I don't keep my mouth shut about anything. So that's a real hard lesson to learn, that I guess some of us probably would have learned that when we were younger. It was like, just don't talk about this shit, dude. Nobody needs to hear it. But I don't know. I think a lot of people learn that the hard way. And I don't think there's anything good nor bad, but what outcomes do you want to come from it? And if in the end you want your gym open, God, you kind of you just got to play along. Like nobody likes paying freaking sales taxes, but geez, you just kind of got to do it, or else someone's going to come a knocking.
Yeah, in the last 18 months, this has probably been, despite being in business for 9 years, I have to say that the last 18 months has been the hardest, fastest lessons and the fastest changes. Basically, I've made more kind of decisions, mistakes, and kind of corrections in the last basically year and a half than I have in the first basically like 8 years of business.
Yeah. How did you get started in this business, Everett?
Like a lot of people, kind of, as we were saying earlier, kind of same origin story. Ever since I was a kid, when I was in high school and stuff, I was kind of fat, overweight, decided to make a change. I basically fixed myself, realized I can fix others, started running nutrition stores, thinking that was the answer with supplements back in like the 90s. It was all about like when creatine was just coming out, and thinking that that's what really made the difference. And after several years in that industry, realized that it's mostly lies and shams. and empty promises. So I decided to get into personal training, and then found out basically years later that my wife was pregnant, kid on the way. So I'm like, I always wanted to open a gym. So it was kind of now or never. So opened it when she was 6 months pregnant. And basically I did it exactly the way that the original CrossFit did it. I started, I think it was not even 700 square foot gym. It was like $1,500 a month for rent. And basically like no loans, no nothing, just cash, like 4 barbells, 2 rowers, and slowly kind of expanded. Within a year I had already grown over to 100 members and outgrew the place. So it just kept on moving up from there.
Yeah. That's a really sweet way. I always appreciate that start where someone's like, oh, I start by having some clients, and then I start with the space that I need for those clients. And you grow organically. It's a very different game coming in neck deep with debt.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think the way that I open is even feasible anymore.
Yeah.
It
really depends. Like a person has to really start. You definitely couldn't start with a gym being the end in mind. It really has to start with just, all right, who are you going to coach? How are you going to make money coaching? And from there, like the gym just becomes another step along the way for you to continue coaching or really to scale up. But it's very, I do think you're right, especially in a lot of places where property values just are insane.
That's the issue here. Is like you're not finding anything else for under like basically $4 or $5 grand, even for a tiny place. So you already have to have a big base of clientele just to even afford the rent.
Yeah, that's gnarly. It almost can encourage a guy to go non-brick and mortar as much as possible. It's or remote, or try to travel to, or just really strip it down. There's a lot of interesting models that I've seen come up like to adapt to that demand, where it's like, fuck me, there's just no way to make this work for $6 grand a month rent when you don't have anybody.
Yeah.
If I don't have enough clients to cover that, this is a bad way for me to start my business. We're all gonna starve for 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Something you just mentioned, Tyler, was interesting. It's the idea of how like everybody now, where that almost exacerbates everyone's move from having like a brick and mortar location and wanting to be able to be virtual, right, or distance or whatever. But like COVID, it would be probably a really strong argument that like the pandemic itself pushed a lot of people in that direction too.
Yeah.
But the one thing that points out is, Everett, you're talking about this from a totally different perspective, which is the idea that like property value is so expensive that it almost is impossible to do what you said you were able to do.
Yeah.
And I would almost say that like, okay, then all the pandemic did was highlight that problem and just exacerbate the shit out of it. Just be like, whoa, this is a huge problem. Everett, are you finding that you said you had to learn and grow and do a lot, like more in the last 18 months and make changes than you have in the last 9 years? Do you feel like that COVID or the pandemic just really like put a magnifying glass over the business and forced you to like reckon things in the gym that maybe always were there, but never was it just like on fire?
Yeah. Well, pretty much exactly. I pretty much used kind of COVID as an excuse for in a positive way for everything. Like we need to rearrange the schedule. Why? COVID's changed things. And I just use it to reevaluate literally everything I'm doing. Like, okay, why do we do Sunday classes? And then kind of reevaluate. Why do we charge this much? Why do we use this software? Like, and I just basically like slowly kind of just a checklist going over everything we do to find out, like, is it still viable what we're doing? Why did we do this to begin with? And is there a more efficient way of doing it, or a cheaper way, or a better way of kind of doing things? And just I've been slowly going through basically kind of everything we're doing to try and basically improve things, because after like 9 years we were stagnant on some things. And just like a lot of businesses, like, well, why did we do this? Oh, because we did it the last time, or we did it the last place. And the kind of habits, good or bad, just got kind of carried over, versus saying like, well, is it worthwhile to do this? Is there a better person to do this? Is there a better way of hiring staff, of running classes, everything? So it just basically tried to revamp everything, just to question everything we're doing.
That's like that strategy I really love too, because I think it's important for gym owners to do this. You were forced by a once in a generation pandemic, kind of, that to like, shit, I got to start really thinking of this. But what I really like is that you did go through every process, every step, every philosophy, every scheduled thing, like every single thing you do with the thing in mind of, I want to make sure I'm not doing this just because we always have done it this way.
Yeah.
And
Well,
once
'cause
a guy thinks like that, you can really like streamline every aspect of your operation and like retune everything towards what needs to be done to work. And also like, does this fit with what I want to be?
Yeah.
It's like a real objective assessment of it. And I think that's really, really a critical piece for a lot of gym owners to take on.
Well, that and the market's completely changed. Like if you're just holding on to like, I want to things go back to normal. If I just hold off another 6 months, whatever, I can go back to normal. Well, things might not go back to normal. It really depends on kind of where you are. But with us being mostly like a government town, and none of the government workers are actually really going back to work. And I'm in the downtown area, which is filled with used to be filled with government buildings. So our market has completely changed. We can't do the same things that we used to do, or we've pretty much lost the core of our basic membership.
Yeah. Well, that's a piece that we've seen. If you remember, I remember when this had first kind of come up and they had first shut down gyms, like March, April 2020, and there was a lot of rumblings. What does this mean? How many of these places are going to close? And there was a piece, and I know this thing stretched out a lot longer than I think even anybody would have expected. But the really valuable thing that I pointed out then was like, there's a lot of businesses in this world who are resilient enough financially, their model, like the way they save money, how they operate, the way they run their costs, cash flow, who are able to absorb like a big hit for a couple months. You know what I mean? Like, but it really, really exposed the gym, the fitness industry, the brick and mortar fitness industry to how lean and how unprepared a lot of these businesses were for adversity. And whereas like, Jesus, all this martyrdom that we've done for a decade of like just getting by to save some money and just like running on the cheap and keeping money in the business so we can not put much into ourselves. All of a sudden now when this goes up, it's guys that own the gyms are the ones paying the real price. Everybody else saves money dropping their gym membership. You got a family to feed.
Yeah.
That's
everybody
the
does
thing.
The classic stuff like, oh, if you have 100 members at $200 basically a month, you're making tons of money, and they just do the basic napkin math and not realizing it's nowhere close to that.
Gym math, baby. It's my favorite. Soft gym math. Everybody does this math and goes, oh, you're probably killing it. It's like, that's not how any of this works.
Nobody really gets into this other than like people like Brick in New York City or something like that. Nobody gets into this to make tons of money and retire early off of this. It's a labor of love.
Yeah, but I do like that people take the opportunity, usually out of necessity. It's always necessity, right? But took the opportunity to go, all right, now I got to start thinking this way. I got to start setting my sights a little bit differently. Let's revamp everything. What has kind of kept you in the game as this process has gone on?
Basically helping people. That's what I've always done. I got into this kind of helping myself, and it's seeing the especially with all the stuff we've done recently with like Strong Fit and everything over the years. And I've evolved more from just the physical aspect of training, but understanding the emotional, the kind of the nervous system. And seeing, like, I think our government failed a ton during these pandemics by not offering like health advice or just telling people to get out and walk or to exercise. And so that was my thing, is just trying to help people get through seeing the physical and emotional impact all of this stress and these changes have had on people, is trying to help people kind of get through this and realize it's like, don't give up. You can make these changes. It's really not that hard to help to get to the other side of this. And despite all the obstacles always thrown in our way, I've always taken it basically as like a challenge. Okay, well, they won't let us do this. Okay, I'll figure out a way to get this done, or like as everybody else did, do stuff online, which everybody hated after about the first month, but just figuring out something to keep people motivated, moving, and just thinking of everything. This is just like, it's like an injury. You're just trying to maintain yourself until we can get out of this, and then we can kind of go back to thriving.
Yeah. What I had noticed too was like, there's, like you said, I think systemically as a society, we've dropped the ball in this pandemic because there was not as much attention paid on health as it should be. And of course, that's a played out thing that everybody is kind of blows towards. But I really believe that like hope in this situation, where hope lies in this, is in health. And that we were only hearing fear and pharmaceutical solutions. And that's a real disappointment, I think, is that nobody was saying, all right, here we are almost 2 years in, a year and a half in. Now it's like, how many people's health has deteriorated by 10 to 20% in this last 18? A lot. 10 to 15% is probably the standard. This is worse than most people's first year of college.
Would be like, how many people either stayed the same over the last year or improved? very, very few, almost everybody got worse to some degree. So,
Yeah.
and that was kind of part of the issue, is basically just seeing people with something that was completely preventable, seeing nobody really, like the regular healthy unaffected people still getting major negative effects out of this.
Yeah. Now, what I would love to see what the results would be if governments would get involved and would pay for people's gym memberships as though they're paying for every single human being on earth to get vaccinated, as though those two things aren't related in regards to your risk.
Doing that now.
And I think as much as the libertarian in me doesn't like that, I'm like, well, fuck it. If they're going to do something, I'm into that, I guess. But I do think that that's a thing that gym owners now, we need to be open. We need to fight to be open. You got to do what you do to play within the rules to be open. But then your job is to deliver health. And yeah, there's some people that can die on the hill of the politics of it. But God, if you just get the people in your door healthier, you're doing the thing. You're doing the thing that everybody else says that they're doing. Everyone says they want to be doing, is making a difference, and nobody fucking is. But those out here that are really doing it are really, really doing it. And I think that's exceptional.
That's where I'm like, you know what? The bigger people, like the big global gyms that have tons of money and power, I'm like, they're going to be fighting with a louder voice than I can to get open, because they're losing more money than I am. So I'm worrying about my people, doing the best I can for my people, and that's what I'm doing. That's all I'm worrying about.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth noting for everybody that's watching or listening is that Everett's not from the United States.
Yeah.
So Everett's out of Canada. So it's interesting because we're gonna have an international crowd, but when you hear people, like, there's some similar grievances here. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're from Australia, the United States, Canada. Like, you start to hear these stories that are super similar. So it's definitely one of those things where Tyler and I, again, takes us back to why were we doing all this? And I think, Everett, I even talked to you about the idea of really growing a gym owners movement 6 or 7 months ago.
Yeah.
And it was this idea of there's so many people that are having this collective experience that are all over the world that are experiencing very, very similar things or similar struggles. And yet it's just like, dude, I just got to make it to tomorrow.
Well, even CrossFit's doing that now with their what is it called, roundtables that they're doing. So they're starting to basically do like monthly meetings you get a bunch of affiliate owners in, basically chatting about kind of what's going on, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, because they're understanding that it doesn't matter kind of where you are. We're all generally kind of facing the same problems to one degree or another. And the more ideas we have for this, basically everybody's going to come out better. It's like, not like it's us against everybody else. It's any ideas we come out of this and we figure out how to do things better, everybody's going to succeed out of this. And we're the gym owners are the ones who can make the difference with the people kind of on the ground that are basically kind of just getting basically stuck in all this mess.
Well, I think as a community of gym owners, both, everywhere, right? As these communities arise, what you need collective ideas, first off. But a bunch of ideas are not the only thing. And the nice thing about having a group of gym owners together sharing these ideas is they'll go out and test them. And then if this process is happening, what we're doing is we're gradually coming to terms with what maybe is the best practices for the moment. But by the way, we don't have that yet. Nobody really knows how to survive if your gym's got to be closed for 6 months out of the year. Nobody quite knows how to do that. But if 400 gyms are navigating it, 100 survive, those 100 might have 15 strategies that kind of work. And now we can start to boil it down. And if we don't kind of unite as a community to figure this out, everybody has nearly the same ethic, the same goal. They want to help people. Everybody listening to these conversations we're having with guys like you, Everett, and some of the ladies that have been on as gym owners, this is a very much results and community outreach. And this is a feel-good, results-based trade that people get into. But I think we need best practices, and we need these businesses to stay open. And if we do this long enough and we come together, eventually we'll have a large enough sample size of knowing, like, this works, this didn't, this works here, this didn't. We can start to really draw some conclusions that can then help everybody. But it's on everybody to get together, share ideas, and test them. And that is the nature of navigating anything as a community. Is we need the collective in order to do it. And we don't need their fucking help. We don't need anybody's money. You don't need any other gym owner's money. But man, an idea, or maybe knowing that your idea works, like confident that it worked and you didn't just get lucky, knows now that this is a principle that you can drive forward in everything you do. And now you've got some ironclad shit to build your business on.
Yeah.
And we all know how that feels. Like Tyler and I have been talking about this a lot lately, which is the idea of like, how good does it feel when you have an idea that maybe you've spent a lot of time personally like mulling over? I think we should do this. Like, I think this is what we should do. This is how I'm feeling. Maybe you talk to a business partner, you talk to somebody that's near you and kind of bring them in on that. And then you have the opportunity to maybe talk to another gym owner or talk to somebody that is adjacent to what you do. And you're just talking to them. And then they go, do you know what would be a great idea? And they literally say the thing that you've been spending all this time talking about. And all of a sudden you're like, that's it. Like, holy shit. Like, it's that affirmation that you need of being like, I'm not crazy. Like, this could work. Like, this is what we could do next. Or somebody else like, oh yeah, we started that 3 months ago. And that's the best case scenario. You'd be like, awesome. Tell me everything that went horrible.
That's one thing I found that with during that pandemic is that, it might be locally for me, but I noticed kind of before a lot of the gyms kind of in the area were very territorial, very competitive. And then after the first kind of lockdown of ours was like 4 months, people started like, well, what are you guys doing? And then like just even trying to interpret the laws, like, okay, well, what does this mean? So everybody would, like, gym owners in the city and in the province would all kind of try and figure out ideas, or how could we do this, or are you guys allowed this? And a lot of people kind of ended up working together because basically it was like, put the egos aside. Hey, we're all in this together and we got to make it through. So let's find out what works and trying to adapt through this. And I found that it was nice to see that the community basically kind of reconnecting again and realizing that, like, in a bad situation, no, we're all on the same side.
I would love to dig in just a little bit more. Everett, you've been open, right? You said for 9 years.
Yeah.
But you said you've learned more, you've done more things, right, in the last 18 months. I'm really interested, and I'm sure folks that are listening or watching would be interested, is maybe what is the thing in the last 18 months that you've changed the most? Like, what was the biggest thing that you altered specifically over these last year and a half?
Well, I've done all of the classic gym seminars. So I've done like the Ben Bergeron, I think it was Business of Excellence. I've done John Gilson's, I've done Jason Kalipa's, where they basically talk about kind of how to run a business. I liked a lot of them, but the one thing I kind of disagreed with a lot of them on it is like, build your business like you're going to sell it. But I'm like, well, I'm never going to sell my business. It's like my baby. It's everything like this. But I was approaching it the wrong way, because I thought like he didn't say like basically do it like, or because you're going to sell your business, it's like you're going to sell your business, because it's what I did before is I took up too much responsibility and I tried to do basically everything. And then realizing that it's stepping back, putting the right people in the right place. And this is the one thing that I did before. Like I outsourced some of the stuff to my staff, but I didn't. I basically just kind of assigned it, or say like, John, okay, you're going to do this, and then, and then I basically what I ended up doing is basically talking to them. For example, like talking to my staff. Okay, I want to find out who's available in weekday mornings to coach, because I only want the people that want to be there weekday mornings. If somebody's a night person and they need 3 coffees before they can do anything, I don't want them coaching my 6 a.m. class. So I basically would figure out, okay, like putting the right people in the right place so they feel basically empowered to do what they're best at. And then like going to my coaches, like, okay, well, do you have any ideas of like what you want to do? You want to run a running club? Good. Tell me what help you need. You go try and build this. And getting people to do what they want to do best and putting them kind of in the right position. And that's probably been the biggest lesson, is realizing that I can do everything, but I shouldn't do anything. It's getting the right people in the right space to do the things that they're best at doing. And it's been basically happier, more productive staff, better ideas, because they're also understanding how hard it is to do certain things, because like, oh, I'll run this program, it'll be super easy, and realizing, oh crap, it's not that easy. It's the sales, the marketing, the funnels, and kind of figuring everything out, and be able to help them along basically with that, to help so we could all basically grow together and give them the option. Like, I'm not naive thinking that, hey, you know what, these coaches are going to be with me forever. I want them to be able to go out, and if they want to do something on their own, do something on their own and be successful at it. And then maybe basically working together in the future. It's not like we cut ties and they go out and kind of do their own thing. It's like, well, maybe we can grow this project and then we can kind of work together on this in the future so that, again, we all kind of win basically throughout this.
What I love those arrangements, because especially for coaching, is because it should, in my opinion, be an entrepreneurial endeavor kind of still. Like, because you should have your people as a coach, not just a gym, but if you have coaches that are doing semi-privates or one-on-ones and things like that, they should be coaching people they connect you. They should align with. It shouldn't be any one of your coaches would be the perfect guy for this guy. That's probably not how it is in reality. But I think that as these systems grow and you start stepping away from things by empowering them to do that, we've seen a lot of gym models where then they can just crush it because the coach can really chase their passion, and you build their passion into their segment of the gym. And now their responsibilities are aligned with exactly what they want to be doing, but their outcomes kind of are too. You give them enough to eat and give them the stuff that they need to be doing, and then give them a path to build their own thing. That then, by the way, if it grows big, you're not here to just take all the money. If someone starts a running club, they can do it. And then somebody grows that into their thing. Boy, they're just running it out of here and you get the benefits. They're doing the sales. Like these are systems where you can grow a really, really multifaceted gym that can offer a lot for people by building through your personnel, not just through yourself. And as a gym owner, we always do that. We're like, oh, it's just, I built myself into the gym and now we just do the one thing that I like doing. And then it stays like that. And I make everybody do it in a jam, everyone through that box. And that's, I would say, that's about a third or fourth year lesson. Then we're like, fuck me, everybody hates me. And but I think in doing exactly the things you described, it forces you to think in that way, which is the way I think all businesses need to go towards growing and scaling, and you being more useful as an owner is like, I just have to offload the tasks that I'm doing to somebody I trust to do them well. And I got to know who they are, and they got to be in the right place, because so many coaches come in and they can coach and they just want to be exercisers. Okay. And maybe there's a spot for a coach who really likes exercising, who can coach sometimes, but heart isn't really in it, fine. But you give them just that, and you're not going to give them a whole lot of leeway beyond that point. You don't want them doing your sales. You don't want them taking a lot of initiative. And maybe you want to make sure you have somebody in there taking care of the bulk of it. But I do think that there is, there's so much value in empowering your coaches to do what they want to do. There's always some ditch digging to be done, but if there's a lot of friction between what they're coaching, who they're coaching, and how it's going, maybe they're just not in the right place.
Like that. And that's the thing. Like, so when I started doing that, I had one of my long-term members reach out to me because like most gyms, Saturdays and Sundays are a little bit harder to get people to work because most people like their weekends free. And I had a member reach out to me and basically said, like, she always shows up on the weekends. She's like, you know what? Like, my dad came the weekends. He did the class. He loved it. He programs like that at his gym. She's like, if you want, like, I'll coach the Saturday classes. I'm like, awesome. I don't even have to go and like, okay, who wants to work the weekend this weekend? Like, she wants to work weekends. She wants to run the programming. So like, awesome. You know what? It's your baby. Run with it. And this is having the right people that are doing it with passion. That it's same thing as like gym members. I only want people that want to be here. If they don't want to be here, I'm going to refund them and send them on their way. I want the coaches doing what they do best because they have that fire, passion, and love when they're doing their task.
Yeah, because that easily just translates right over to your members.
Yeah.
And it means immediately, all of a sudden, just like you said, all those changes happen. Attrition goes down, right? Your staff is happier. Like everything starts to feel like it's starting to really click.
And, we want to be building as your business progresses, you want to be adding layers, and you want to be adding layers that can make money and can make money at a larger scale that don't require so much input from you as the owner. And that has to come from empowering your coaches and giving them basically the keys to building an entire structure of revenue and programs and sales. You build a whole structure of that around a person who, you can put your horses in front of. And I think it really is a thing that a lot of people leave on the table by just having coaches running group classes, and that's it. I think that's you end up with placeholders instead of real quality coaches at that point.
Yeah, they end up being just 100% dependent upon you. All of a sudden now it's very much like, I've equated it before, but it's like they're little piggies that come up and they need to be fed, and they're constantly needing to be fed, and eventually they get really huge and they get fat and maybe they get happy because they're getting fed so well, right? To where I like your mentality and why you went about it, Everett, how you've explained it is a great way of kind of maybe flipping that concept of being like, maybe you need to figure out how fucking hard this goddamn thing is. Instead, it's going to be like, no, I'm going to empower you. Take
And
your
giving you the
passions.
option.
I'm going to give you
I always-
tools.
I always tell people, like, you're not going to make your living coaching group classes. Like, it's that's not where the money basically is. And this, like, it's a horrible analogy, but I'm a weird guy. I'm not a nice person to take to strip clubs because that's long story short. I basically, last time I went to a strip club, besides trying to correct their posture, I was more curious about their business model. And I was blown away when I figured out, again, it might be different in the US, but at least here in Canada, the way it works is, you know, when they have those banners like, oh, this Friday is Candy who's going to be here. I didn't realize that Candy pays to be there. She's got to pay like $1,000 to go on stage. That's her advertising budget. She loses money when she's on stage, but that's her advertising. And then she gets the connection with the clients to the back room. That's where she makes her money. And I liken that to basic coaching. Your basically time in the classes is your time to practice, to get a connection to the client so that you can go out and do other things or find out, like, oh, I got a bunch of runners. Maybe I can start a running program, or I see all these people are bad at double unders. I can run a double under clinic, and to give them that kind of advertising instead of, like, because like people who come in, if they're just do personal training, well, unless you have a giant roster of clients, it's eventually going to dry up and you don't have a connection to these members. So it's going to be harder to basically to make more sales and to understand people's needs versus be able to see these people a couple times a day. You get to meet more people, and you also get to practice basically making connection to people as well.
Could you imagine?
Go ahead, John.
Could you imagine the mindset shift that if you ran a gym and your group classes, coaches that wanted access to your people, if they paid you to run the group classes, that would be.
This is also where, like, and gym owners always have to deal with this when coaches are doing work for them. They're like, well, if I'm charging $100 an hour, I should get $100 an hour. And then again, that whole membership basically thing, like, you multiply the members, not understanding what the overhead is, and the time usage, the space usage, the having access to the clients. Like, oh, but I'm only doing like remote programming for them. Yes, but you would not have had these clients if you didn't have access to them. So that's covers as part of the overhead and the expenses, and trying to break that down to explain to people, like, you're not doing it to be an ass to take money out of it. It's just you have expenses to cover as well as this. It's not a basically like a free ride on a train on this one. It's,
well, and plus your facility, all the equipment, it has value, and it has value that they need to use every time, lest they go pay $5,000 for a building of their own. Another thing that I noticed when I was in the tech field was that we had to purchase all of our own tools. Like the last job I went to, where we took it seriously. I go in and he's like, and I mean, obviously, like, I had some shit, but like all the really expensive shit was normally like the company just had, right? I pull, he's like, no, you got to buy all your own stuff. I was like, wait, what? And I was like doing the math. I was just like $20,000. You're fucking crazy, right? And also, like, I was like good at the job already. Like, people like, come on, you want me here? He's like, I'll help you. Like, I'll buy it all if you want. He said, and he said, you can pay me $100 a month if you want to, and you can pick the nicest shit or whatever. But the point is, I want you to own this, because then you have value as a professional. Meaning, if you own all these tools and you quit here today, you know that when you quit, if I go to another tech company in that field and I say, I have all my own shit, I'm easily the most hireable person beyond all my other credibility. They go, he's a professional, he's invested. And I think when you empower your coaches and force that into your model, where they need to know that they should be offering more services. They shouldn't just be a placeholder. They shouldn't just be a timer runner and say 3, 2, 1, go. And they shouldn't just be a demo boy and hit a button. And that's not what the job is. And once they expand that into like developing other services and getting people into and offering people those services, now they're operating like a goddamn fitness professional. And otherwise, you go to the goddamn YMCA if you want to stand and say up, down, left, right for an hour. But that's not what we're doing here. And I think building it in that way and empowering them to be engage and create offers and services forces them into an entrepreneurial mindset, which then allows them to develop a whole segment of your business. That person gets an entire corner of your business and opportunities and clients and everything. And then you're growing your business within each of those people instead of just this loose model. Like you feel like you're fucking dragging people along and trying to get members in. That sucks. That's a rough game to play.
I think it was Ben Bergeron that had a great quote. Is somebody wrote in and asked him a question. He said, like, what if I pay for my coach's certifications and he just quits? And then the answer to the question was, well, what if you don't pay for certifications and he doesn't quit? Like, I would rather have somebody who I've grown and has gotten to a good coach and eventually leaves me versus having this idiot who's never gotten any better I can't get rid of. And it's trying to get your coaches to do the best they can and how to replicate their skills, what's something they're good at, so they can share kind of with other people again, so that everybody grows and it empowers that coach to do stuff instead of, like, as a gym owner, oh, I'll run the seminar. It's like, no, you're the head coach, you can run the seminar. Basically, so you basically step up that responsibility, get more comfort doing that, and expand on those skills.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
It's amazing how much power, right, you have as a gym owner, just in the back, like your ability, as long as you have the time, right? And Everett, you've talked a lot about like where you've been making time for yourself and identifying where you can get that time, because once you get that time, now it allows you to start playing a much different game than before, because now you have the ability to step back and kind of look, right, 30,000 feet up or whatever, 10,000 meters down, up
on the business versus in the business.
Right. And how you can kind of start to help manipulate positive behaviors out of your people. Just like you said, it's no, I don't need to be the guy. But I do need you to start developing this skill so that you can be the guy or you can be the gal that's going to run this thing and be able to own it, because it'll make you better. And I'm not intimidated if your powerlifting program kicks so much ass that you could open up your own thing or do your own thing. And I would love to be able to continue to foster and work with you through that. The same way that you have the ability to then also manipulate as a gym owner, you probably have the ability, using your strip club analogy, because I know that there's things that we've been able to do with folks that we've worked with, of how can you motivate your coaches to start doing the behaviors that you'd prefer to have them do. So maybe you put less emphasis on group classes. Maybe you have less group classes available and put more emphasis on those semi-privates that you talked about, Tyler, those one-on-ones that you can provide better value. All of a sudden, just through your compensation scale or how you can manipulate those things to maybe not make it as extreme as where they're going to pay you $1,000 to come in and coach for a day in the group scenario, but definitely that reward mentality, that payment mentality, can be manipulated and worked in such a way to where you help push your people in the right direction, which then makes them more valuable.
Yeah, it's trying to get people, like I always, I kind of tell my staff, like, my goal is to get you to be like those Russian nesting dolls. Is like, okay, you're good at this. Now I want the people below you, I want you to duplicate yourself with this. And then those people are duplicate those people, so that you basically, your goal is to train somebody else to do your job, because your job now is to make more of you. And it basically, once they find something they're good at, and that gives them leadership, it gives them confidence, saying like, oh, you know what, I'm awesome at, for example, like doing personal training. So, okay, I need you to help the other coaches to get awesome like you at personal training. So you are no longer just doing personal training. You are now basically teaching everybody else how to do personal training. So basically you're stepping up in a role and trying to get other people to do what you do. And that goes from like top to bottom, from like gym owner all the way down to like the cleaners. You want to basically try and get everybody basically not just stagnating, but trying to do better and train other people to learn what they've learned over the years, but in a faster way.
Yeah, I dig it.
John, are we to the drum roll
We're
question?
ready.
All right. Everett, our send-off question. If you could give one piece of advice to somebody looking to maybe start down your path and becoming a gym owner, coach, however they see fit, but someone who maybe wants to follow in your shoes, what's one piece of advice you could give to somebody who's new to all this?
Get a mentor. That's the best thing you can do, is find somebody who's either good or has experience, somebody that you want to emulate, ask them questions, follow them around like a lost puppy, or if you have to, pay for their time. You'll learn the wisdom that they've learned from all their mistakes. You'll learn that on basically without having to make the same mistakes.
What was, Everett, if we're talking about the mentors for you, what were some of the most valuable mentors? Was it gym ownership? Was it
Everything.
coaching?
I've interned under numerous coaches. I've done mental performance coaches. I've done business coaches, and I've always learned from everybody I've went with, and everybody, even the clients I meet in a daily basis. I'm like, what can I learn from this person? I'm always about trying to learn basically more from other people's, basically from the wisdom of others, and wisdom basically comes from making mistakes.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Well, man, I appreciate you being able to come on here with us and be able to bestow some of that wisdom. Definitely lots of nuggets that you help drop. If folks want to be able to follow you, they want to follow your story, they want to follow the gym, kind of what's the best way for them to keep up with you?
Yeah, I'm not very good at social media, but CrossFit Bytown on Instagram, or basically bytown.fit is probably the best way. All of our links are kind of on there.
Bytown.fit.
Yeah.
Awesome. Tyler dropped off, so I'll go ahead and close this out. So if you're watching this video, that means you're already in our Facebook group. So we're glad to have you here. If you're listening to it, that means that we have you here on the podcast, and we want to be able to, we'd love to have you be able to join the Facebook group. So you can come into the Facebook group. It's the Gym Owners Movement on Facebook, and come in there. It's a community that's dedicated to gym owners, right? There's gym owners that are in the group, people that care about gym owners, and it's dedicated to these types of conversations. You know, this is where all the video content that we do from our interviews gets dropped into the group, and being able to kind of share lots of, just like you said, Everett, but share, right, that wisdom that then can help grow and make a difference. I think lots of gym owners are in this thing to be able to make a difference in the lives of the people that they support. And that's definitely the motivation for us, is to be able to continue to support and grow kind of that gym owner community.
It's silly trying to go about it yourself without asking for help. Like, and that's exactly what like a gym owners group is great for, is basically teaching you all those lessons and helping you, because there's always going to be somebody that's got a similar problem or has had a similar experience.
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at jbanksfl. You can follow Tyler.
I'm at Tyler F. Stone on Instagram, if you can hear me. Sorry, I had mic trouble. Stuff just bombed out.
We can hear you, Tyler. Yep, Tyler F. Stone on Instagram. Awesome. Well, we'll close it for us for today, and we'll see everybody next time.
See ya.